Back to the Dawn Show. We're now joined by Karen Zinn, founder and creator of Heart to Soul. And we've been talking, of course, with Steve Block about the death of your daughter, Amanda, in '07. So the two of you were colleagues.
Right.
And so you said to yourself, oh my goodness, nobody knows how to deal with this. And this is so tragic. And thus, and I misspoke, it's not a foundation, it's a website, Heart to Soul. So you're really helping people get good information.
Yes, yes. And I think for me, I didn't know how to behave or act or what to say to Steve. Every time he mentioned her name in a meeting, I felt like, oh, I want to run away. He would ask me, how could I, for ways to create her artwork so that he could recreate it and give it out to other people. And just the mention of her name made me want to run away. And I thought, well, I need to know how to be a better friend, how to be more supportive, what I could do to help him and his family. Mm-hmm. And so I started to look for that information. And when I found it, I put it on the website. I started to compile information and put it on, and it is what it is now.
I think Karen's sort of like so many people you know, where they want to help, and when I would ask Karen for something, she would that made her day, you know, because she was able to do something to help me. But the rest of the time, it's like, well, what do you do? You know, and it is frightening to be in a room where you just don't know if the person's going to melt down in the meeting. You know, I mean, you know, and I would cry all day long in meetings as somebody brought this up, and I didn't want it to be sort of something for Karen, but she went and took that emotion that she had and that kind of discomfort that we really all have and turned it into something that's really remarkable.
Yeah, it's a wonderful website, Heart to the number 2 Soul. Yep. And it's great information. My thing is, in my family, and that's part of the reason we have to have the Kleenex. We lost my niece Joni, drowned.
Oh my gosh.
Several years ago, Memorial Day weekend. So Memorial Day weekend we dread in our family.
Right.
Because I'll never forget the phone call. And the funeral, it was this Irish funeral. They had her in the house, in the parlor, old-fashioned, which people criticized. Mm. But at the time, you have to think of two parents,
right,
Katie and Danny, who lost her oldest daughter, and who couldn't imagine not having her home.
Right.
And so it was this huge, you know, just 1,000 people coming through the house. And I'm in the receiving line, and I'm in their home, and over people keep saying, oh, you know, I'm praying for you to heal, I'm praying for you to cope. And I just remember hugging Katie, who just lost her daughter in a drowning Memorial Day weekend, and I said, you will never get over this. And it makes me angry when people say this. If I had some drug to give you, and she said, boy, you learn in the family who's got drugs or who in the neighborhood. You know, and we tried to laugh, and I do think humor is part of it. But, you know, she always talks about that she appreciated that I was just like, this, you know, Joni will always be with us.
Right.
And even when my daughter got married, and I had engraved, you know, something so that she's remembered for every event, that she's part of our family.
The family.
And that you always include her. And tragically, a year later, they had another baby named her after Joni, and the baby died of SIDS. So they've lost, you know, so it's just, so I'm somebody who loves talking about this and loves people who are willing, like you, Steve, a dad who's willing to share this with people and open up and help people, because you need to talk and you need to be open and just be sensitive. Like I remember at the wake, and people were just eating, and Danny, the dad, was like, how could these people eat? Or laughing at a funeral. So really etiquette and how to act at something and how to be sensitive. And I think it's a big deal. It's part of life, but you have to. There are things that people should know.
Right.
Well, there are basic things that people should know, but I think, so you touched on two things that I just feel so strongly about. I think it's really important that people talk about death. I don't think that it's something that we should ignore. It's going to happen to everybody, and we should be aware of what our wishes are, or our parents' wishes are, before it's, you know, right here in front of us, because then it's kind of creepy. Nobody wants to talk about it then. But my kids, I have a playlist on my phone of my funeral songs. They know that if something were to happen to me, to go in there, and they know what my songs are. So they're not afraid to have those conversations. But I also think learning and understanding how to support our friends when they're grieving is really important. And I think part of our fear of talking about death it prevents us from trying to understand how we can support our friends when they're grieving too, and it's so important. People need to talk about their grief in order to move through it. They'll never get over it, they'll move through it. And they need to know that what they're doing, and there's no one way to grieve, but they need to know that what they're doing, they have some sort of guideline on how to be supportive by being present. There's no one response. I was telling Steve, this was the first time we talked about it, about one moment that he and I had in the office, and there was, at the time, I took responsibility for his reaction, but his reaction was his reaction regardless of what I said. And so it's just important to know that give somebody freedom to grieve, be present for them, and
listen.
Yeah, listen.
Let them talk.
You know, one thing you gave me, you had the program from Corpus Christi in Jersey for Amanda, and one thing that I know from my two little nieces was that they gave the little cards, and they said, keep these with you. And even my kids still have their little cousins' pictures in their backpack, and here you have this. And so I think that's wonderful healing for you, but also for family and for friends to say, keep Amanda with you, keep her in your heart. Do you feel that she's with you? I mean, do you believe in that, with her spirit and her energy? I mean,
well, I think she comes to my wife more than she comes to me, but I ask her for advice a lot because she was always a very fine critic of her parents, critic of her friends, and you know, had no problem speaking up. So at times I will say, I want, you know, it's not what would Amanda do, it's like, Amanda, what would you want me to think here? And I feel that she comes to that. But she did live a very interesting and full life, short, but there, you know, I still eat things, and I have apple with a peanut butter on it that she used to do, and it's like I'm doing that, and only I am knowing it. It's like, you know, I'm doing it with Amanda. And you will never get over this, which is okay. I mean, it's just, you want her a part of life.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that we just don't know how to deal with something like, you know, I think, as you said, when a parent loses a child, that's like horrible. I think anybody has connections. They all have grief in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's not just that event. And how do we learn how to deal with it? How do we become human for our friends in our community? And I don't know that I ever learned it anywhere except through friends who were behaving, and now through Karen's website, Heart to Soul, which really, you know, I went through it with Karen. I was like, remarkable.
And well, let's talk. Let's stop there. Let's pick up more about the website and the specifics when we come right back.